Hey everyone, and welcome to my Guatemala trip presentation. So what I'll be talking about today is first, I'm going to go over the service days, then I'll talk about some other things that we did, such as climbing the volcano and the zip line, and then I'll end with some of the lessons I learned while down in Guatemala. So the first service day was amazing. We did it on Monday, and this is the first family that we served. And the mom, she actually has 8 kids ranging from age 32 to 12, so that was a cool fact about her. Also, another fun thing that I learned was that she and her husband make these super cool tire flower pots. And as you can see up in this first picture, I'm standing next to some of the flower pots that they've made. And so her husband cuts the tires and then she paints them and decorates them. So that was just really cool to see how resourceful they are. It was also really fun to work with the kids, and this last picture is actually, I wasn't able to help with this garden, but my dad was, and so that was another one of the gardens our groups worked on. So for the second service day, which was Tuesday, this is the first group that we helped serve that day, and the place that we went to it was a gorgeous little valley and a really tight-knit community, because turns out a lot of the women there are pretty much widows because their husbands went to the States to get a job and send back money, but then they just stopped sending back money. And so it was really cool to see how they've bonded together and they just help and support each other. For example, this lady up here, she followed us around, so she went around with us to the different gardens and helped her neighbors to build their gardens. It was just really cool to see all that she did for them, especially since she had a cold, and so she should have been at home resting, but instead she was out serving her neighbors. And there was also this super cute little girl that she couldn't speak Spanish, she just spoke her native language, Cacachiquel, and she was really shy at the beginning, but then she totally opened up at the end and was helping with the planting and just the building, and no one can understand what she was saying because some of the kids and my dad, they speak Spanish, but she just kept on jabbering her away in Cacachiquel, and she was just a really cute little girl. And this was a super cool family to work with. So we actually ended up having lunch at their house as well. The community got together, all the women got together and made a lunch for us, which was super nice of them because they don't have a lot of money. So this was actually this is the house that we had lunch at. And as you can see, this house is made out of wood, and in Guatemala, all the houses and buildings are made out of cinder blocks. But it was really cool to see how this guy, he actually built this house, and my dad and I, we were lucky, and we got a tour of it. He gave us a tour of it, and it was just a gorgeous house. But he would come home from work, and then he would work on this house until like 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's really cool to see what this family has done. And his wife, it was her garden box that we were helping to build. She said that she wanted to build the garden box so then she can learn more. And also their grandchildren. This little boy, he's 6, his name's Laser. He's a super duper smart kid, and he's a hard worker, and he helped us a lot. And it was just really cool to interact with this family. And here's another picture of the family, and just some of the people who helped work on the garden. And once again, it was just definitely really fun to help with this garden. So for the third service day, which was on Friday, this was the first house that we did on Friday. And at this house, it was actually really cool because they gave us papaya drinks, which is crushed up papaya in water, and which was really nice of them because once again, these people don't have a lot, but they're so willing to impart of what they do have and to share what they do have because they're so grateful for all the help that we gave them. And so it was fun to drink these papaya smoothies out of these clay jars. So that was definitely really fun. And here's some more pictures from that day. This top one is we're loading some of the supplies into what my dad and I called the bullet hole truck, because I'm not sure if you can see it, but right here there's a bunch of bullet holes. And we never did learn the story about why there's the bullet holes in that truck, but anyways, it was a really cool van. And then over here, this is what the area looks like when we get to the house. So the people are in charge of leveling out the area and putting the posts in that we then wrap the chicken wire around so then the chickens don't get into the gardens. And so this is what we see when we get there. And we also, it was really cool because we got to see one of the, this is actually two of the gardens that are fully grown, because we got to help a little bit to build a garden for, I believe it was same family, and they earned another garden box, or maybe it was one of their neighbors, they earned another garden box, and so we got to see some of the fully grown gardens as well. And then the last two gardens that we helped to build, we had to hike way up into the mountains for these two. It's probably a good mile or so up on these steep trails, and carrying two 2x4s up a steep trail is, let's just say, it's not the most enjoyable thing. Or also the buckets too, because there's tools in the 5-gallon buckets. And we also had to build, we built a retaining rock wall, as you can see down here, out of all these rocks, and I helped to carry a lot of those rocks and find those rocks, and it was definitely hard work. But the really cool thing about having to bring all of these supplies and tools and like helping to just build this garden, because it was definitely an intense project because we usually don't have to build a retaining wall. The cool thing about it was that it became so much more meaningful because we had to put so much more work into it. And the women that we were building these gardens for, they're actually widows, I believe, and so they really don't have a lot. And we got to go and visit, we actually got to go and visit their house, which I'll talk about later in this presentation, but they really don't have a lot. But they were such cool people and they were so happy. And down here, one of the kids who lives up there, he got super good at using the drill, and he just really enjoyed that. And some of the other girls told me that he just picked up on her really fast. So it was cool to help out with that. And then, so this is the house that they invited us to go visit their house, and we had sack lunches, so they invited us to go and eat our lunches up there. And it was just a really special experience to go, because this is like going like 300 years back, 300 years ago, because there's no electricity. Rooms are super dark, and the only reason why you can see my dad here in the kitchen is because there's a flash on the camera. But so the rooms are really dark, dirt floors, and so we really don't have a lot, but it was really cool. They were just really neat people and happy as well. And also we had to carry the tools in, and we also had to carry the tools out. So this is the picture of us heading back out. So overall, this was definitely a super cool experience, even though we had to hike a long ways up and a long ways back. So the volcano, which we did, I believe it was on Wednesday, was super fun, although it was super hard as well. So there was just gorgeous views. It was super green, and you could see Lake Atilan from some of the places, especially from the top, and it was just gorgeous. And it did rain some of the way up and some of the way down, so it was pretty muddy, and no one got too seriously injured on the way coming down, but we definitely did have to go slower because it was so slippery. But it just added to the adventure. And it was about probably like 3.5 hours hiking up, and it took longer hiking down than usual because of just how slippery it was. And here's a picture of the group at the top. And as you can see, here's Lake Atilan in the background. And it was really cool to be able to look down and see clouds because that's how high up we were. Oh, and also I forgot to mention that it was really cool to just be able to spend some quality time with my dad, because there was a group of kids who were the fast hikers, so they were in the fast group. And then my dad and I, we were more in the middle, and then there was a slower group behind us. But since we're coming from Texas, so basically sea level, and going way up into the mountains, the difference was, I could definitely feel it with the elevation. And so we weren't able to go as fast as everyone else, but we went at about the same pace. And so we couldn't see anyone in front of us, we couldn't see anyone behind us. So it was cool to just get some quality time with my dad, and it was almost like we were just hiking all by ourselves, and it was fun to talk with my dad. And then here's this is a picture actually from the second session, but these are some of the people that we saw while walking down the volcano. Is these guys they're carrying tons of weight on their back. Like this axe is probably just 15 pounds. And they would run down the volcanoes or jog down the volcanoes with this on their backs. And it was just it's a reality check, because I had like a 10-pound backpack on, and like my legs are burning, and like I'm just exhausted. And then you see one of these guys, and you're like, wow, like I've got it easy compared to what this guy is having to do. So it was definitely a reality check. And the zip line was the last day. It was on Saturday, and it was just gorgeous. As you can see here, it's just like super green. It was fun to go zip lining like through the trees, and then it would open up and you could see Lake Atilan, and you could just look down at all the trees that were zooming past. It was definitely a cool experience. And here's some more pictures from when we were at the zipline place. And once again, just beautiful views. And there's 9 zip lines that zigzagged down the mountain. And we had to climb up the mountain to get to the zip lines. And so that was definitely cool to be able to see more of the green foliage. But there also was a lot of mosquitoes as well. I forgot to put on bug spray, and so I only got bit a couple of times while in Guatemala, except for the last day. I got bit quite a few times. But it was still definitely worth it. And here's a picture of my friend Josh on one of the bridges that we went on as we were going up to the zip line. And it was really cool to go on these rope bridges, and as you can see, like we got to see like the waterfall in the background, and there's really cool experience. There was also monkeys that we saw too, which was just like totally added to the experience. It was really cool. So moving on to some of the lessons that I learned. A huge one that I learned is that happiness is a mindset. It's not based on the material things you have or the things that you do each day. It's not based on if you're going to go on a cool vacation or like a cool trip on the weekend. Because I saw the Guatemalan people, these Mayan people, and they did the same thing every day. It was hard menial labor, and it wasn't, they didn't have a lot of like variety in their day. They didn't have time to dream, and it was just interesting to see. But they were so happy, and it was cool to see how it wasn't because of their material things. It wasn't because they had like variety in their life, and they weren't doing like these adventures every day, because so often it's easy to think that's where happiness comes from, but instead it comes from the inside. And so happiness is definitely a mindset. And then the second lesson that I learned, which was huge, is that it's important to surround yourself with a good group of friends that raises each other up. And because the group of friends that I met down in Guatemala, they were just incredible, good, solid kids, especially the kids who lived down there, because there was a couple of American families that lived there, and they joined us. It was really cool to see how they improve themselves constantly and challenge themselves, and then just as a group, they all like reach upward together, and it was just really cool to see that, and just the atmosphere. I felt so accepted in this group. And that's something that I definitely want to cultivate and grow within my groups of friends, and find friends that are like these people that I met down in Guatemala. So the third lesson that I learned is that poverty isn't a lack of material things. A lot of people in first world countries believe like the poverty is a lack of material things. And to be honest, that's what I thought as well. But I learned that it's actually, like when you ask someone who's living in poverty, what is poverty? They did a study on this and found out that those people say that it's feelings of shame, embarrassment, hopelessness, to name a few. And it's really cool to see what Cultiva has done to fix this problem. They've gone to the root of the problem, and they've helped people to have a sense of pride and hope through these gardens that they help these people to build. And because they have to go to attend, these Mayan people have to go to a 10-hour class to earn these gardens, so they earn the gardens and they help to build them. So it establishes a sense of pride and hope, and that they'll be able to provide all these vegetables for their families. So that was definitely cool to kind of switch that mindset between what I used to think poverty is, and now what I know poverty really is. And so thanks for taking the time and watching my presentation.